The night my career fell apart, my wife laughed and said, "You deserve this." When I asked for support, she demanded I still pay for her trip. I told her I had nothing left. She replied, "Then you're useless to me." That was the moment I stopped calling her my wife. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now let's dive into today's story. The engine ticked as it cooled. Frank Warren sat behind the wheel of his 10-year-old Honda, staring at the grain silos across the parking lot. The afternoon sun beat down on the metal roofs, making the air shimmer with heat. His phone buzzed in the cup holder. The name on the screen made his stomach drop. Regional manager. Frank answered on the second ring. Warren speaking. There was a pause. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that meant bad news was coming and the person delivering it wished they didn't have to. "Frank, it's David. Got a minute?" "Sure." Frank's voice stayed level. He'd worked in sales long enough to know when someone was about to pull the rug out. "Listen, there's no easy way to say this." David's voice sounded worn down, like he'd already made this call 10 times today. Corporate's shutting down the agricultural division. They're consolidating operations, moving everything to the Chicago office. Frank didn't speak. He watched a sparrow land on the hood of his car, hop twice, then fly away. "Your position's being eliminated. Effective immediately. HR will send the paperwork today. You'll get 2 weeks severance and your accrued vacation time." "Understood," Frank said. His voice came out steady, calm, like he was confirming a delivery time, not the end of his income. "I'm sorry, Frank. I really am. You were solid. This isn't about performance." "I appreciate that. If you need a reference down the line, you have my number." "Thanks, David." Frank ended the call and set the phone down gently. He didn't throw it, didn't curse, didn't punch the steering wheel like they do in movies. He just sat there, hands resting on his thighs, breathing in and out through his nose. 10 minutes passed. He wasn't panicking. Panic was useless. He was calculating. His checking account had maybe $3,000. Savings had another $2. The mortgage payment was $2,200 a month. Car insurance, utilities, groceries. Lindsay's spending habits. That last thought made his jaw tighten. The spa memberships. The boutique fitness classes she attended twice then quit. The wine club subscription that delivered bottles she opened once and forgot about. The weekend trips with her friends where she came back with shopping bags and credit card receipts. He never said much about it. Marriage was supposed to be a partnership. You supported each other. You made sacrifices. You stood together when things got hard. That's what he believed, anyway. Frank started the car and pulled out of the lot. The drive home took 20 minutes. Long enough for him to run through scenarios. Short enough that he didn't have time to rehearse what he'd say. When he walked through the front door, Lindsay was standing in the hallway in front of the mirror. She had 3 pairs of sunglasses laid out on the entry table. Designer ones. She was holding a pair up to her face, tilting her head left and right. "Which ones?" she asked without turning around. "The black or the tortoise shell?" Frank set his keys on the counter. His hands felt heavy. "Lindsay, MM." She switched to the other pair. Still didn't look at him. "I need to talk to you. Can it wait? I'm trying to pack for Arizona. We leave Thursday morning." Frank took a breath. Let out slow. "They let me go today." The sunglasses lowered. Lindsay turned halfway, one eyebrow raised. Then she laughed. Not a nervous giggle. Not a shocked gasp. A full, sharp laugh that cut through the room like glass breaking. "Seriously?" She shook her head, smiling like he'd just told her a mediocre joke. "I told you that job was shaky. Didn't I say that like 6 months ago?" Frank's chest tightened. It wasn't about performance. They shut down the whole division. "Okay." She went back to the mirror, picking up the tortoise shell frames again. "So what's the plan?" "The plan." "Yeah, Frank. The plan. You got something lined up, right? A contact? Another company. I just found out an hour ago." Lindsay sighed. The kind of sigh someone makes when a waiter forgets their drink order. Annoyed. Inconvenienced. "Well, you need to figure out fast. I'm not canceling my trip." Frank stared at her reflection in the mirror. She was serious. "Lindsay, I'm going to need some time, and I'm going to need your support." She turned around fully now. Her expression shifted from annoyance to something colder. Harder. My flight is non-refundable. $460. You're still covering it. Frank felt something crack inside him. Something he didn't know was holding him together. I can't, he said quietly. I don't have anything left. I need to hold on to what I've got until I find something else. Lindsay stared at him for 3 long seconds. Then her face went blank, empty of warmth, empty of anything that looked like concern. Then you're dead weight, she said. Each word came out clean and final, like a door closing. I didn't marry a liability, Frank. The silence between them stretched out. Frank didn't move, didn't argue, didn't defend himself. He just nodded once. That nod wasn't agreement. It was recognition. The marriage had just ended. Right there in the hallway with designer sunglasses scattered on the table and afternoon light coming through the blinds. Even if the paperwork came later. Lindsay grabbed her phone and walked past him toward the bedroom. I'm going out. Don't wait up. The front door closed 20 minutes later. Frank stood in the same spot for a full minute after the sound of her car faded down the street. Then he moved. He walked into the home office and sat down at the desk. The computer hummed to life. He opened the browser and pulled up their joint bank account. Then the credit card statements. Then the folder in his email marked finances. For the next 4 hours, Frank didn't move except to click and scroll and open new tabs. He noticed things he'd ignored before, things he'd explained away or chosen not to see, charges that didn't match Lindsay's income. She worked part-time at a wellness center, pulling maybe $1,500 a month, but she was spending 3 times that, regularly. A personal loan in both their names that she'd said was for business expenses. He'd signed the paperwork without reading it carefully because she'd said it was urgent. Now he saw where the money went. Trips, clothes, spa treatments, text messages she'd left open on the shared tablet. Conversations with friends where she called him safe but boring, where she said he lacked ambition, where she laughed about how easy it was to get him to pay for things. Frank didn't cry. His face stayed blank. His breathing stayed even. But something inside him shifted, something fundamental and permanent. He created a new folder on the desktop, named it Records, started organizing everything into subfolders. Screenshots, PDF downloads, copies of statements. By the time he finished, it was past midnight. Lindsay still wasn't home. Frank shut down the computer, walked to the bedroom, and lay down on top of the covers fully dressed. He stared at the ceiling until his eyes finally closed. When he woke up the next morning, Lindsay was asleep on the couch, still in last night's clothes. Frank made coffee, drank it standing at the kitchen window. Then he opened his laptop and started looking for an attorney. The first call to the attorney's office happened while Lindsay was at the gym. Frank sat in the car outside a coffee shop, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in low, measured tones. The paralegal who answered took his information, scheduled a consultation for the following Tuesday, asked if there were any immediate safety concerns. No, Frank said. Nothing like that. Any children? No. Shared property? The house. Cars. Bank accounts. Bring all financial records you have access to. Statements, tax returns, loan documents. Everything. Frank already had them organized. He'd spent the weekend transferring files to a thumb drive, making copies, printing the most important pages. He thanked the paralegal and ended the call just as Lindsay's car pulled into the driveway at home. The next morning, Frank called the bank. I need to freeze joint account access temporarily, he said to the representative. I'm filing for divorce. I want to make sure nothing gets moved until the legal process is in place. The rep walked him through the process. It took 15 minutes. By the end of it, Lindsay's debit card was deactivated. The credit cards linked to the joint account were frozen. Frank knew what was coming. He set his phone on the counter and waited. It took 6 hours. Lindsay called while he was heating up leftover pasta for lunch. The phone vibrated so hard it nearly fell off the counter. He answered, didn't say hello, just waited. What did you do? Her voice came through sharp and high. Angry. I secured the accounts. You what? I froze joint access. You can't pull money until the divorce is settled. There was a pause. Then the screaming started. You can't do that. That's abuse, Frank. Financial abuse. I can't buy groceries. I can't get gas. You're controlling me. Frank hit the speaker button and set the phone down. He pulled his own phone out of his pocket and started recording. I'm recording this conversation, he said calmly. Just so you know. Lindsay didn't stop, didn't even slow down. I don't care. You think recording me makes this okay? You're trapping me. I can't access my own money. It's not your money, Frank said. His voice stayed flat. It's our money, and I'm protecting it until a judge decides what's fair. Fair? You lost your job, and now you're punishing me for it. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm following legal advice. Legal advice? You hired a lawyer? Are you serious right now? Yes. The line went quiet. Frank could hear her breathing. Fast and uneven. You're really doing this, she said. Her voice had changed. Lower now. Almost confused. Yes. Fine. Fine. You want to play it this way? We'll see how that works out for you. She hung up. Frank stopped the recording, saved it with a date and timestamp, uploaded it to the cloud, added it to the records folder. Then he went back to eating his pasta. By the next day, Lindsay's approach had shifted. She called in the afternoon. This time, her voice was different. Softer. Shaking. Frank. She sounded like she'd been crying. I'm scared. I don't know what's happening. Frank didn't respond. Just listened. I supported you for years, she said. Her voice broke on the word years. I stood by you when things were hard. And now you're punishing me because you lost your job. That's not fair. That's not who you are. You call me dead weight, Frank said. You told me you didn't marry a liability. I was upset. I didn't mean it. You meant it. Frank, please. I'm not the bad guy here. You're making me out to be some kind of monster. I'm not making you out to be anything. I'm protecting myself. From what? From me? I'm your wife. Not for much longer. The crying got louder. More dramatic. Frank could picture her face. The way she scrunched up her nose when she wanted to look vulnerable. He'd seen it before. When she wanted something. When she needed him to give in. I feel abandoned, Lindsay said through the sobs. I feel like you're attacking me when I'm already down. You're not down, Frank said. You're angry that you can't spend money that isn't yours anymore. It is mine. We're married. For now. He hung up. Lindsay called back 3 times. Frank didn't answer. He turned his phone on silent and went for a walk around the neighborhood. When he got back an hour later, there were 2 voicemails and 7 texts. He deleted them without listening or reading. The consultation with the attorney happened on a Tuesday morning. Frank brought the thumb drive, a folder of printed documents, and a timeline he'd written out by hand. The attorney's name was Robert Kim. Mid-50s. Calm demeanor. He listened to Frank's summary without interrupting. She contested the account freeze? Kim asked. Not formally. Just yelled about it. Did she threaten you? No. Just said I was abusing her. Controlling her. Kim made a note. Common tactic. Anything physical? Any actual abuse? No. Good. Keep it that way. Don't engage emotionally. Don't respond debating. Everything goes through me from now on. Frank nodded. I'm going to file this week, Kim said. We'll request temporary orders. No spousal support. Debt assigned to the party who incurred it. And we'll ask for full financial disclosure on her end. What are the chances? Kim leaned back in his chair. Based on what you've shown me? Good. She spent money she didn't earn. Took loans without contributing income. You have documentation. That matters. Frank felt something loosen in his chest. Not relief. Just confirmation that he wasn't crazy. One more thing, Kim said. She's going to escalate. When people lose control, they get loud. They make accusations. They try to turn people against you. Don't react. Don't defend yourself publicly. Let the facts speak. Understood. Frank left the office with a retainer agreement and a court date 3 weeks out. The petition for dissolution of marriage was filed that Friday. Lindsay got served the following Monday. She called Frank 30 seconds after the process server left. You filed? Yes. Without even talking to me? We talked. You call me deadweight. That was the conversation. I can't believe you're doing this. Believe it. She hung up again. The first hearing happened in a courthouse 20 minutes from their house. Frank arrived early, wore a button-down shirt and khakis, sat in the hallway with Kim and waited. Lindsay showed up 10 minutes late. She was wearing a dress Frank had never seen before, something soft and gray. She'd pulled her hair back. No makeup except for what looked like smudged mascara, like she'd been crying in the car. She looked at Frank once as she walked past. Her eyes were red. Her lip trembled. Frank looked away. Inside the courtroom, the judge called their case. Both attorneys stood. Kim went first. Your Honor, my client is requesting temporary orders. We're asking that spousal support be denied based on the respondent's financial behavior during the marriage. We have evidence of excessive spending, undisclosed debt, and misrepresentation of income. Lindsay's attorney stood, an older woman with reading glasses on a chain. Your Honor, my client has been emotionally and financially abandoned. She contributed to this marriage in non-monetary ways. She supported my client through his career. She deserves protection during this process. The judge looked at Lindsay. Mrs. Warren, do you have anything to add? Lindsay stood slowly. Her voice came out soft, shaking. I just feel so blindsided, she said. I thought we were a team. I thought he loved me. And now he's treating me like an enemy. I don't understand what I did wrong. She paused, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I've been supporting him emotionally for years. And now that he lost his job, he's taking it out on me. I'm scared. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have money for groceries. I feel abandoned. Frank watched her. Her shoulders shook. Her breathing hitched. It was a performance. A good one, but it was still a performance. Kim stood again. Your Honor, may I submit evidence? The judge nodded. Kim walked forward and handed a folder to the clerk. The clerk passed it to the judge. This is a timeline of financial activity over the past 2 years, Kim said. Bank statements showing charges made by the respondent. Credit card bills. Loan applications. Text messages in which Mrs. Warren disparages my client to friends and admits to spending his income without contributing her own. The judge opened the folder, started reading. Her expression didn't change. Lindsay's crying slowed, then stopped. The judge looked up. Mrs. Warren, can you explain these charges? The spa memberships? The travel expenses? Lindsay's attorney whispered something to her. Lindsay cleared her throat. I needed those things for my mental health, for self-care. Did you discuss these expenses with your husband? He never said they were a problem. Did you contribute financially to the household? I work part-time. I contributed $1,500 a month, Kim said, while spending over $4,000. The judge looked at Lindsay, then at Frank, then back at the documents. I'm granting temporary orders, she said. No spousal support at this time. Joint accounts remain frozen pending final hearing. Mrs. Warren will have access to a separate account funded with $1,000 per month for necessities. Mr. Warren will maintain the mortgage and utilities. Discovery will proceed. We'll reconvene in 60 days. The gavel came down. Lindsay's face went pale. Her attorney leaned over and whispered something else. Lindsay shook her head, started to stand, then sat back down. Frank didn't react, didn't smile, didn't look at her. He followed Kim out of the courtroom and into the hallway. That went well, Kim said. She'll appeal. Let her. The evidence is solid. Frank nodded. What's next? We wait. She'll either accept reality or dig herself deeper. Either way, you're in a good position. They shook hands. Frank walked to his car and sat behind the wheel for a full minute before starting the engine. His phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize. This isn't over. Frank deleted it, blocked the number, drove home. That night, Lindsay called from friend's phone. Frank almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. What? I'm scared. Her voice was small now. Not angry, not performing, just tired. Of what? I didn't think it would go this far. I thought you backed down. Frank didn't respond. I'm sorry, Lindsay said. For what I said. For all of it. Frank sat on the edge of the bed, stared at the wall. You're not sorry, he said. You're scared because you lost control. That's not true. It is. Silence. Then, please don't do this. Frank closed his eyes. It's already done. He hung up. Lindsay didn't call back. The weeks between the temporary hearing and the final trial moved slowly. Frank picked up freelance work through a former colleague. Consulting gigs. Nothing permanent, but enough to keep the mortgage paid and the lights on. He worked from the home office, the same room where he'd first uncovered the financial mess Lindsay had created. She'd moved out 2 weeks after the temporary orders. Packed her things while Frank was out. Didn't leave a note. Just took her clothes, her toiletries, and some furniture she claimed was hers. Frank didn't argue. He let her take whatever she wanted. It wasn't about the stuff. He changed the locks the same day. Discovery happened over the next month. Both sides submitted financial records, employment history, and witness lists. Lindsay's attorney requested mediation. Frank's attorney declined. Why waste time? Kim had said. She has no leverage. Let's go to trial. The trial was scheduled for 3 days. Frank didn't know if they'd need all 3, but Kim had warned him that Lindsay would fight until the end. She's going to make it ugly, Kim said. People like this don't go quietly. Frank was ready. The trial started on a Wednesday morning. The courtroom was smaller than Frank expected. No jury, just the judge, 2 attorneys, and a court reporter typing silently in the corner. Frank sat at the table next to Kim. Across the aisle, Lindsay sat with her attorney. She was wearing the same gray dress from the temporary hearing, same smudged makeup, same trembling lip. The judge entered. Everyone stood, then sat. We're here for the final dissolution hearing in the matter of Warren versus Warren, the judge said. Counselors, are we ready to proceed? Both attorneys confirmed. Kim went first. He laid out the case methodically. The timeline of spending. The loans Lindsay had taken out. The text messages where she admitted to using Frank's income for personal expenses. Your Honor, this is a clear case of financial irresponsibility on the part of the respondent. She spent money she didn't earn. She took on debt without disclosure. And when my client lost his job, she abandoned him emotionally and financially. Lindsay's attorney stood. She was calm, professional, but Frank could see she knew the case was weak. Your Honor, my client contributed to this marriage in ways that can't be measured in dollars. She supported Mr. Warren emotionally. She maintained the household. She deserves to be compensated for that work. The judge looked at Lindsay. Mrs. Warren, would you like to testify? Lindsay nodded. She stood and walked to the witness stand. Her hand shook as she placed it on the Bible for the oath. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. She sat down. Her attorney approached. Mrs. Warren, can you describe your role in this marriage? Lindsay took a breath. Her voice came out soft, controlled. I supported Frank in every way I could. I listened to him when he was stressed. I encouraged him. I made our house a home. I did everything a wife should do. And how did he respond when you needed support? Lindsay's eyes filled with tears. Right on cue. He shut me out. When he lost his job, he blamed me. He froze our accounts. He made me feel like I was the problem. Did he ever discuss financial concerns with you during the marriage? No. He never said anything. He just let me think everything was fine. Thank you. Her attorney sat down. Kim stood. He walked to the witness stand slowly. Mrs. Warren, you said you supported your husband emotionally. Can you explain this text message? He held up a printed screenshot. The one where you told your friend that Frank was safe but boring and lacked ambition? Lindsay's face flushed. That was private. But you said it. I was venting. You also said, and I quote, it's easy to get him to pay for things. Can you explain what you meant by that? Lindsay looked at her attorney. No help came. I don't remember saying that. It's in the evidence. Submitted under oath. Kim paused. Mrs. Warren, how much did you spend per month during the marriage? I don't know exactly. Let me help you. According to bank records, you averaged $4,200 per month. Is that accurate? I guess. And how much did you earn per month? It varied. On average, maybe $1,500. So you spent nearly 3 times what you earned. Lindsay didn't respond. Did you ever contribute to the mortgage? That was Frank's responsibility. Did you ever contribute to utilities? Groceries? I bought groceries sometimes. Sometimes. Kim walked back to the table, picked up another document. Mrs. Warren, did you take out a personal loan for $9,000 in both your name and your husband's name? Yes. Did you tell him what the loan was for? Business expenses. What business? Lindsay hesitated. I was going to start a wellness consulting business. Did you start it? No. Where did the $9,000 go? No answer. Mrs. Warren, I'll ask again. Where did the money go? I don't remember every detail. Kim placed a highlighted bank statement in front of her. According to this, the money went to travel, shopping, and spa services. Does that refresh your memory? Lindsay's jaw tightened. I needed those things. But you told your husband it was for business expenses. I plan to use some of it for business. How much? Silence. Mrs. Warren, can you point to a single business expense in this statement? Her attorney stood. Objection. Badgering. The judge looked at Kim. Move on, counselor. Kim nodded. Mrs. Warren, when your husband lost his job, what was your response? Lindsay's hands clenched in her lap. I was worried. Worried about what? About our future. Did you offer to help financially? I was already working. $1,500 a month. While spending $4,000. Did you offer to cut back on your spending? He never asked me to. Did you offer? No response. On the day your husband told you he'd lost his job, what did you say to him? Lindsay looked down. I don't remember exactly. Let me help. You said, then you're dead weight. I didn't marry a liability. Do you remember that? Her face went red. I was upset. You called him dead weight. I didn't mean it. But you said it. Yes. Kim turned to the judge. No further questions. Lindsay stood and walked back to her table. She didn't look at Frank. The judge called a brief recess. Frank stepped outside into the hallway, drank water from the fountain. Kim stood next to him, reviewing notes. She's done, Kim said quietly. The judge sees it. Frank nodded. He didn't feel victorious, just tired. When they reconvened, the judge called Frank to the stand. He swore in, sat down, kept his hands still on the armrests. Kim approached. Mr. Warren, can you describe your financial situation before the marriage? Stable. I had savings. No debt except my car loan. And after, savings depleted. Credit card debt. A personal loan I didn't know the details of. Did you confront your wife about the spending? No. I thought marriage meant supporting each other. I didn't want to create conflict. What changed? Frank took a breath. When I lost my job, she laughed. She called me deadweight. She told me to cover her trip to Arizona, even though I had no income. That's when I realized I wasn't in a partnership. I was funding someone else's lifestyle. What did you do? I looked at the records. I organized everything. I realized how bad it was. Did you try to talk to her? There was nothing to say. She'd made her position clear. Kim nodded. Thank you. Lindsay's attorney stood for cross-examination. Mr. Warren, you never discussed finances with your wife during the marriage. Correct. Correct. So she had no reason to believe her spending was a problem. She knew what she earned. She knew what she spent. She didn't need me to explain math. Did you ever tell her to stop? No. Then how is she supposed to know you disapproved? Frank looked at the attorney, then at Lindsay, then back. Because spending 3 times your income isn't normal. And calling your husband deadweight when he loses his job isn't love. The attorney frowned. No further questions. Frank stepped down, sat next to Kim. The rest of the trial moved quickly. Both attorneys gave closing arguments. Kim summarized the evidence. Lindsay's attorney tried to frame her as a victim of poor communication. The judge listened, made notes, then leaned back in her chair. I've reviewed all the evidence, she said, and I've heard the testimony. This is a straightforward case. Mrs. Warren spent money she did not earn. She incurred debt without disclosure. She showed financial irresponsibility and, when confronted with her husband's job loss, responded with cruelty rather than support. Lindsay's attorney started to stand. The judge held up a hand. I'm not finished. Mrs. Warren has presented herself as a victim, but the evidence does not support that narrative. She contributed minimally to the household income. She took out loans under false pretenses. She mocked her husband to friends and family. And when he sought to protect himself legally, she accused him of abuse. The judge looked directly at Lindsay. That is not abuse, Mrs. Warren. That is accountability. Lindsay's face went pale. I'm ruling as follows. The judge continued. The marriage is dissolved. No spousal support will be awarded. Mrs. Warren will be responsible for the personal loan she took out, as well as any credit card debt incurred solely by her. Mr. Warren will retain full ownership of the marital home and all joint assets. Mrs. Warren will have 30 days to remove any remaining personal property from the residence. The gavel came down. It was over. Lindsay sat frozen at the table. Her attorney leaned over, whispered something. Lindsay didn't respond. She just stared straight ahead, her face blank. Frank stood, shook Kim's hand, walked out of the courtroom without looking back. In the hallway, Lindsay's voice echoed behind him. Frank, He didn't stop. Frank, please. He kept walking, pushed through the doors, stepped into the afternoon sun. Behind him, Lindsay stood in the courthouse hallway, crying. But no one followed her. No one offered comfort. She was alone. That night, Frank sat in the home office and changed his phone number. He updated his email, closed the joint accounts that were still lingering, blocked Lindsay on every platform he could think of. No explanations, no final speech, no closure, just silence. Over the next week, mutual friends reached out, asking what happened, asking for his side. Frank kept his responses short. We're divorced. The court handled it. I'm moving on. Most people didn't push. A few asked if he was okay. He said yes. One friend asked if Lindsay had tried to contact him. She tried, Frank said. I didn't respond. That's cold. Frank didn't argue. He just shrugged. Maybe. The friend changed the subject. By the end of the month, Lindsay stopped trying. No more texts from unknown numbers. No more calls from friends' phones. No more attempts to reach out through social media. She was gone. Frank changed the locks one more time, just to be sure. He packed up the last of her things that she'd left behind, donated most of it, threw out the rest. Then he rearranged the furniture, painted the bedroom, made the space his own. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming what he'd lost when he'd ignored the red flags. His dignity, his peace, his future. A year later, Frank was living in a small rental house near the river. One bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a porch that overlooked the water. It wasn't much, but it was his. He worked contract jobs, chose his own hours, took projects that interested him, made enough to cover rent and groceries, and still put a little away each month. He slept through the night, woke up without dread, spent weekends hiking or reading or sitting on the porch with coffee. No drama, no chaos, no one mocking him or calling him dead weight. He heard through a mutual acquaintance that Lindsay had moved back in with her sister, that the wellness business she'd talked about never happened, that her credit was ruined and no one would lend to her anymore. He also heard that people had started asking questions about the loans, about the spending, about the things she'd said during the trial. Her reputation had cracked. People who'd believed her version of events were reconsidering. Some had apologized to Frank. He'd accepted without making a big deal of it. He didn't celebrate her downfall, didn't gloat, didn't tell people, I told you so. He just moved forward, because the loudest karma wasn't public humiliation or financial ruin. It was being fully exposed, fully responsible, fully alone, and knowing that no one was coming to save you because you'd burned every bridge on the way down. Frank sat on his porch one Sunday morning, watching the river move past. The sun was just coming up. The air smelled like dew and fresh water. He took a sip of coffee, felt the warmth spread through his chest. For the first time in years, he felt light. Not because Lindsay had lost, but because he'd finally won. Not against her, against the version of himself that had ignored the truth for too long. The version that had accepted disrespect because he thought love meant enduring. That version was gone now, and what remained was stronger. Frank set his coffee down, leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes. The river kept moving. The sun kept rising. And Frank Warren kept going.